I used to believe that love, once found, could never deceive you, that when two people promise forever, the universe quietly sealed their fate together. For 3 years, I lived with that belief, with her, with Sarah. She had a way of filling silence with warmth. Her laughter would drift through our small apartment like sunlight sneaking through half-drawn curtains. I still remember the first time I saw her, standing in line at a coffee shop, a tired smile painted across her face, as if she were holding up the world by pretending it was light. I never imagined that behind that smile lived an entire secret life. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? We argued about small things, forgotten groceries, work calls that stretched too late. Yet she always found a way to end every disagreement with a kiss and a whisper, "You know I love you, right?" And I believed her. I believed every word. Lately, though, something had shifted. Her phone would buzz late at night, and she'd step outside to take the call. She said it was work, urgent projects, demanding clients, but her eyes told a different story. I wanted to ask to dig deeper, but love makes you a coward sometimes. You'd rather drown in doubt than risk hearing the truth. So when our anniversary came around, I decided to do something special, something to remind her of us. I took the day off, bought her favorite lilies, and wrapped a silver bracelet she'd once admired but never bought for herself. I even rehearsed the look on her face when I'd walk into her office, the shock, the laughter, the soft hug. I wanted to see her smile again, the way she used it when love was simple. The city was bright that morning, full of noise and movement, but inside I felt calm, hopeful. I reached her office building just before noon, straightened my shirt, and took a deep breath before walking in. The receptionist smiled politely as I approached the counter, clutching the bouquet like a nervous teenager. "Good afternoon," I said. "I'm here to surprise my wife, Sarah Malik. Could you tell her husband's here?" The receptionist's smile faltered. For a moment, she just stared at me, as if I had spoken a secret I wasn't supposed to know. Then, softly, she said something that made my heart stop. Her husband already came by this morning. For a moment, I thought I hadn't heard her right. I blinked at the receptionist, waiting for her to laugh or correct herself. Anything to ease the tension suddenly clawing at my chest. But she didn't. Her polite expression remained, though unease flickered behind her eyes. "I'm sorry," I asked, my voice thin. "You said her husband?" "Yes," she replied softly. "He was here this morning. He brought flowers, too." The word struck like a cold slap. My grip tightened on the bouquet until the stems bent beneath my fingers. "There must be a mistake," I said quickly, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my face. "I'm her husband, Armin Malik. Maybe you meant a colleague, or—" The receptionist glanced at her computer, then back at me. "He said the same name," she murmured, almost apologetically. "Armin Malik. He said he was her husband." The room seemed to tilt. My breath came shallow and sharp, and for a second, I thought the air had been sucked out of the lobby. Somewhere behind me, the elevator chimed, and a group of people walked past, laughing. Their voices sounded distant, unreal, like echoes from another life. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. "Could you please call her?" I managed to say. The receptionist hesitated, then nodded. She picked up the phone, her tone cautious. "Ms. Malik, there's a gentleman here asking for you. Yes, he says he's your husband." There was a pause, long enough for my stomach to twist. Her eyes flicked toward me. "She'll be right down," she said finally, placing the receiver down gently, as if afraid it might break. I waited near the glass doors, staring at the reflection of a man who suddenly looked unfamiliar, pale, trembling, clutching a bouquet of crushed lilies. Outside, the world continued as if nothing had changed. Cars honked, sunlight shimmered on windows, and yet everything inside me had gone still. When the elevator door slid open, Sarah stepped out. Her face was a mask, a practiced calm that couldn't quite hide the storm in her eyes. "Armin," she breathed, her voice barely steady. "What are you doing here?" "I came to surprise you," I said. My voice cracked on the last word. But apparently someone already did. Color drained from her face. The flowers slipped from my hand, hitting the marble floor with a soft, defeated sound. For a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. Then I saw it, that flicker of guilt, sharp and undeniable. And in that instant, I knew the truth before she ever said a word. We stood in the lobby like strangers, two people who once promised to grow old together, now unable to even meet each other's eyes. The receptionist pretended to be busy behind her desk, but I could feel her curiosity, her sympathy. The world around us blurred. All I could hear was the shallow rhythm of Sarah's breathing. "Let's go outside," she whispered. I followed her out to the street, where the city's noise swallowed our silence. We stopped near a bench beneath a row of trees, their bare branches clawing at the November sky. She turned to me, clutching her handbag like a shield. "Armin, please, listen to me," she began, her voice trembling. "I can explain." "Explain what?" I said, forcing a hollow laugh. "That I just found out my wife has another husband? That someone else came here this morning claiming to be me?" She flinched at my words, but I couldn't stop. The anger, the disbelief, it all spilled out. "Tell me it's a misunderstanding. Tell me this is some kind of cruel joke." Tears welled in her eyes. "It's not a joke," she whispered. Those 3 words shattered whatever hope I had left. I took a step back, feeling the ground till beneath me. "So it's true," I said. "You're married to someone else." Her silence was an answer. "I never wanted you to find out like this," she said finally. "I was going to tell you." "When?" I interrupted. "After how many anniversaries? After how many lies?" She wiped at her tears. "Armin, please. I didn't plan for this to happen. I was married before you, but we were separated. He left. I thought it was over. There were no papers, no closure, just silence. And then I met you." Her words felt like knives wrapped in softness, gentle, but still cutting deep. "You thought it was over?" I repeated bitterly. "And that made it okay to marry me? To let me build a life with you while you were still someone else's wife?" "I loved you," she said desperately. "I still do, but he came back a few months ago. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. You don't understand how complicated it was." I stared at her, searching for the woman I once knew, the one who made promises under candlelight, who held my hand in the dark. But all I saw now was a stranger wrapped in memories. "Complicated?" I said slowly. "No, Sarah. Cancer is complicated. War is complicated. But lying to someone who trusted you, that's just cruel." She turned away, crying softly, and for a moment I almost reached out. Old habits die hard, and love doesn't fade instantly. But then I saw her wedding ring glint in the light, the same ring I thought was ours alone, and my hand dropped to my side. "How long?" I asked quietly. "How long have you been living this lie?" She didn't answer at first. Then, through her sobs, she said, "Since the beginning." The world tilted again. I sat down on the cold bench because my knees felt too weak to hold me. I stared at the crushed bouquet on the ground, the lilies I bought to remind her of our love, and wondered if they had ever meant anything. "I was going to fix it," she whispered. "I wanted to choose you. But you didn't," I said. "You chose to deceive me." Her tears fell harder. "I'm sorry, Armin. I never meant to hurt you." I looked at her for what felt like the last time, really looked, and I realized something. Her face, the one I used to adore, now looked unfamiliar not because it had changed, but because the truth had changed how I saw her. "I think you meant to protect yourself," I said quietly. "Not me." For a long time, neither of us spoke. Cars passed. People hurried by, unaware that a world had just ended between 2 silent figures on a city street. When I finally stood, my voice came out steady, too steady. "Goodbye, Sarah." She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. The cold air settled between us, like a wall that could never be torn down. That night, I couldn't sleep. The city outside my window hummed like a broken machine, restless, distant, alive while I lay in the ruins of something that once felt eternal. Sarah's voice echoed in my head, every word replaying like a ghost refusing to leave. "I was going to tell you. I wanted to choose you." I had loved her so completely that even now, the thought of hating her felt impossible. Instead, I felt hollow, like someone had carved me open and left me to echo with memories. I stared at our wedding photo on the nightstand. Her smile was soft, innocent, or maybe I had only wanted to see it that way. I traced the edge of the frame with my finger and felt the first sting of anger mixed with disbelief. How long had she been living this double life? How many nights had she gone home to him, pretending she was somewhere else? The questions clawed at me, dragging me backward through time, into the flashbacks that now felt like lies disguised as love. I saw her again at that coffee shop. The first day we met, she had spilled her drink, and I'd offered her napkins and a smile. She laughed. The same laugh that used to make everything around me fade. "Are you always as kind to strangers?" she'd teased. "Only the ones who look like they need saving." I had replied. She'd smiled, but her eyes had flickered, just for a moment, with something unreadable. I thought it was shyness. Maybe it was guilt. Months later, when we got engaged, I remembered how hesitant she was about wearing the ring. "It feels strange," she'd said softly, sliding it onto her finger as if afraid it might burn. I had kissed her hand and joked that she'd get used to it. I didn't notice the way she avoided my eyes. Now I knew why. Maybe the weight of one promise reminded her of another she had already made. She used to take phone calls late at night, stepping out to the balcony, whispering. When I'd ask who it was, she'd smile and say, "Work emergency." Once, when she came back inside, her face was pale. I asked if she was okay. She said, "Just tired." Then she kissed me, long and desperate, as if she was apologizing for something I hadn't yet discovered. The more I remembered, the clearer it all became. Every missing piece fit perfectly into the puzzle I had ignored. The business trips, the sudden weekends away, the birthday she said she spent with her mother, but came home smelling a cologne that wasn't mine. I had built an entire life around someone who didn't exist, or at least not the version I loved. By morning, exhaustion pressed on my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. I walked through our apartment in silence. Every corner was haunted. The couch where we watched movies, the kitchen where she danced while cooking, the bed that still smelled like her perfume. I sat on the floor, surrounded by memories that now felt poisonous. And for the first time, I allowed myself to see the truth. Sarah had never been completely mine. Maybe no one ever was. Love, I realized, isn't always about two people finding each other. Sometimes, it's about one person losing themselves in the illusion of being found. I thought of how she used to rest her head on my shoulder and whisper, "You make me feel safe." Now I understood I had been her refuge, not her home. The realization hurt, but it also freed me. The pain that once felt unbearable began to turn into something quieter. Acceptance, maybe, or just numbness. I took off my wedding ring and placed it beside hers on the table. 2 circles of gold, symbols of love, now reduced to proof of lies. As dawn crept through the window, I whispered to the empty room, "You were my truth, Sarah, even if I was only your mistake." 3 days passed before I stepped outside again. The world hadn't changed, but I had. Every sound, the hum of traffic, the chatter of strangers, even the laughter of children, felt distant, like I was moving through someone else's life. I hadn't spoken to Sarah since that day outside her office. Her number flashed on my phone more times than I could count, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What was left to say? The truth had already spoken loud enough. Then on the 4th morning, I received a message. A number I didn't recognize. "I think we should talk." Faisal. It took me a moment to understand. Faisal, the other husband. I almost deleted the message. I wanted no part of this twisted circle. But curiosity, or maybe closure, won. I agreed to meet him at a small cafe near the river that afternoon. He was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, hands folded neatly around a cup of coffee. I recognized him instantly, not because I had seen him before, but because something about his posture felt familiar. Worn, tired, yet composed. The look of a man holding himself together because falling apart wasn't an option. When he saw me, he stood and extended his hand. "Armin," he said quietly, "thank you for coming." I sat across from him, unsure how to start. There were no right words for this kind of meeting. "She told me about you," he began. Or rather, I forced it out of her. "I came back from Dubai 2 months ago and found her distant, distracted. I knew there was someone else. I just didn't know it was her husband." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "Strange, isn't it? Both of us carrying the same title." I stayed silent, staring at the steam rising from my untouched coffee. "She was never good at choosing," he continued. "Even when we were married, she lived half here, half somewhere else. Maybe that's who she is, a woman divided between two worlds." His tone wasn't angry. If anything, it was weary, like a man who had fought too many battles and no longer cared who won. Finally, I asked, "Do you still love her?" He looked out the window for a long time before answering. "I think I love the memory of her, not the woman she became." I nodded. "I know that feeling." We sat in silence, two strangers bound by the same betrayal. There was no hatred between us, only understanding, the kind that comes from shared pain. When we finally stood to leave, he said, "You should move on, Armin. Don't let her ruin the rest of your story." As I walked away, I realized how true that was. I couldn't rewrite what had happened, but I could choose how it ended. That evening, I went back to our apartment one last time. The air smelled of her perfume, faint, fading. I packed what was mine, leaving the rest untouched. On the dining table, I placed a note beside the 2 wedding rings. "Sarah, you can't build 2 homes on one heart. I hope you find peace, even if it's not with me. Armin." I locked the door, slid the key under the mat, and walked away without looking back. For the first time in days, I felt something close to calm. Not happiness, not yet, but the fragile beginning of it. It's been 6 months since that day. The day my world cracked open and the truth slipped through like a storm. At first, I counted time in small ways, in unanswered messages, in sleepless nights, in the hollow quiet that replaced her voice. But pain, I've learned, has its own rhythm. It comes in waves, then softens into memory, until one morning you wake up and realize you can breathe again. I moved to a smaller apartment on the edge of the city. The walls are bare, the furniture simple. I don't own much anymore, just what I need, and a few things that remind me who I am. The mornings are quiet here. I make my own coffee, read by the window, watch the light shift across the floor. There's peace in the ordinary. Sometimes I still think of Sarah, not with anger, but with a strange tenderness. I wonder if she ever found the courage to be honest with herself. Maybe she's back with Faisal, try to rebuild what was broken. Or maybe she's wandering, still caught between 2 lives that never truly belonged to her. I've stopped trying to understand her choices. Some truths aren't meant to be understood, only accepted. I've learned that love isn't proof of goodness, nor is betrayal proof of evil. We are all flawed creatures, carrying our own fears, doing our best not to drown in them. Sarah lied, yes, but she also loved in her own incomplete, desperate way. And maybe that's what hurts most. That love alone was never enough to make us honest. One evening, while walking by the river, I saw a couple laughing together on a bench. The woman leaned her head on his shoulder, her face lit by the soft glow of sunset. For a moment, it reminded me of us, of what I thought we were. But instead of pain, I felt something else, gratitude. Because even though my love ended in betrayal, it was still real while it lasted. It taught me how deeply I could feel, how completely I could give. I've started writing again, small journal entries at first, then longer reflections. It's strange how words can heal what silence cannot. Each page feels like a step forward, away from the wreckage of what was, and toward the quiet strength of what remains. If there's one thing I know now, it's this. The day I found out my wife had a husband was not the day my life ended. It was the day it began again, in truth, in solitude, in freedom. Some truths destroy you, but in their ruins, you find the person you were meant to become. And maybe, just maybe, that's its own kind of love story.